solar panels.
Oh, I gotta be out of town that week. Did I tell you guys that?
So
I'm serious as a
Frank's
heart,
gonna be here.
I'm serious as a heart attack. I forgot to tell you about that.
Well, that's good.
None of them are in your precinct. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine.
I'll stand behind Trump in about 50 yards.
Yeah, good friend you are. Yeah. Stand right behind you there. All right, are we ready to go? Thank you. At this time, we'll call this regular meeting of the Hill County Commissioners Court to order this Tuesday, January the 13th, 2023. Let the record reflect this meeting was posted in accordance with Texas Government Code 551, better known as Texas Open Meetings Act, and a quorum of commissioners is present established. Further, this meeting is being held both in person and online, and that Zoom link is now up and running and was posted on our website and our agenda. Has anybody signed up to speak before 8 a.m. this morning? All right, thank you, Ms. Paul. I appreciate that. At this time, before any undertaking, let us first invoke the blessing of the Almighty. Commissioners, I can answer you. Thank you, Chris.
Absolutely. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for your love, your grace, your mercy, sacrifice you made for our sins, Lord. We know we didn't deserve that, but we're forever grateful and in your debt into eternity. Lord, watch over us today as we deliberate the business of Hill County. Help us to keep you in our hearts and our lives and in all the decisions that we make for the good of the people of Hill County. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you. If you follow me, the pledge of America and the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I protect the flag, pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Thank you all for being with us here this morning. I appreciate that. Everybody been enjoying the fine weather we've had? What's going?
There.
Yeah, well, no, believe me, yes. What's going on in Hill County Precinct 1 this morning, Commissioner Holcomb?
Well, we're gearing up for completion, we hope, this coming week of our chip seal project on 1414.
Okay.
That was started last year.
Man, it's chip sealing weather as of this weekend.
Well, we're hoping it is. We've got everything lined up and Larry's sending some equipment and some help to help us knock that out.
Wonderful.
And this week we'll finish prepping the road and be ready to go.
Well, good deal. Commissioner Thompson, what's going on in Precinct 2?
Busy. Up until the last couple of nights, we've been patching rock. Different roads and replacing some culverts, and then got a call Saturday night from the sheriff department, 2200 River Road, some damage. And he said maybe some tornadic damage, winds. Turned out he takes some 5-6 foot oak trees twisted in half. And we were there, thank goodness for Glenn and Casey, two of my employees. They're real good about going out.
I really appreciate
And when they're on call, they answer the calls. And then last night, Glenn called me and said, get your butt up. Time to go to work again at 1 o'clock.
that. So Sunday night, yeah.
So it happened again. It didn't happen just from one road. It happened from the south end to my north of Peoria.
Yep.
Back to Prairie Valley was the hardest hit was trees that he said, I need you to follow me around. So I followed him around from 1 o'clock till daylight. And then they would push trees and move limbs rest of the day. And there was a lot of tree damage, lots of hair. You drive down that old, these streets and it just solid leaves out of it.
Wow.
With you said the corn, that all was standing with the ear of corn in the stalk.
Yeah, I got a field that looks similar to that statement.
I appreciate my guys and especially the band, when something happens like that, he answers.
Good guy for sure. All you guys are. Commissioner, what's happening in Precinct 3 this morning?
Thank God we missed all of that. We did have a few trees down.
We don't want to be selfish. We'll share next time.
No, we've had a couple of times that you missed it, so. But no, we had a few trees out of that little episode down and main thing with us is just we've been having some real heavy rains, seem like every night. Next morning we get up and go find the washouts, patch those and
see what's gonna happen tonight, so. Up until then, we've been patching holes and weak spots in roads and like.
Okay.
So changing a few covers, just doing our daily thing. But last week it was busy.
I believe so. Commissioner Lake, what's going on precinct 4 this morning?
With dragging a few roads and hauling some gravel. It's sort of about it, sort of boring. But it seems to be what we do over and over and over.
It is a monotonous job at days. I'm glad to hear you've avoided some of this worst weather with getting passed around. I think it'll pass soon, but it rains in central Texas sometimes. Sheriff, what's going on in your neck of the woods?
Well, we're really looking forward to meeting with Evergreen. As y'all know, everybody around us said, they jumped up significantly in pay and we're not in that, we're not very ready right now. We're suffering the consequences of it. So we're hoping we get some really good news out of that.
Good. Anything interesting going on at the county level? You guys have had a couple of rough calls in the last 2 weeks. So
We really have. Unfortunately, one of them didn't turn out to be most, it's unfortunate at all, but I'm glad that it wasn't what we thought it might have been at the beginning. So
no doubt.
it doesn't appear that it's gonna be outplayed really is.
Well, summertime, usually this time of the year, we start seeing more break-ins, burglars of cars, things like that. Is that holding true or has it kind of been steady?
It used to pick up when school gets out. I mean, we haven't seen a major influx of it,
Okay.
but I mean, we're hoping to stay that. And that's, one of the reasons why we like to have people out here to, be able to get some more people to fill those spots. So we have any businesses.
Gotcha.
That usually affects the trends and everybody knows your company calls. So, but right now we're staying ahead of it. That's a good thing.
Good to hear. Thank you, sir. Tom, what's going on in your world?
Weather, just
So we're gonna keep,
stay on top of it.
so we've had the bad weather Saturday night and we've had the bad weather Sunday night. And last night we missed a bad, but it looks like the forecast. What does it look like the rest of the week?
Well, the biggest threat is today that they missed the forecast. And they started kind of changing it for a while yesterday.
Okay.
There's a 90% chance of rain today. It doesn't look like it, but once we get past today, there's still those afternoon chances. Seem like there's some kind of something that's just stuck right on top of where we are. Every afternoon with these high temperatures, it's just perfect, recipe for building up in the storm. So
Okay.
there's a chance all week that the highest one is today.
Okay, good. So after the day, maybe it tapers up just a hair. Keep my fingers
I know
crossed.
solar rains something.
It does.
Also, I'd like to thank Mr. Jackson Saturday night that he was out there.
Yeah.
And the road was blocked and to go around the other side and make sure there wasn't any trees, you'd have to drive 10 or 15 miles around. So he was out checking the roads on the other side and make sure that we didn't have to go waste more time looking at it.
Oh, I can't say
He
nothing
did
good.
a good job Saturday.
Guy we hired as a radio administrator, that is Johnny Everybody. He is everywhere all the time. And it's not unusual for me to get a text from him at midnight 1-2, just let me know what he's up to. So that boy works like a rented mule. Aaron, what's going on in your part of the world? What's in elections today?
Nothing much going on in elections, just managing, like I set up a new office, they're now on my hospitals that are going through the second office.
So you're finding some legislation already that's tweaking a few things for you? I appreciate you guys keeping on top of that, keep us informed. But one of the things I think that Aaron came and gave me a report earlier this week, which was yesterday, by the way, that there is a House bill that did pass and we will have to discuss. They're going to extend voting hours, 12-hour days, basically, for the entire week of last week of primary. And then for how many days on the special?
It's the last 2 days of the second week, in the special election, primary and general is the entire second week.
So that'll have a slight effect on our budget. We'll have to budget a few more dollars, a few more hours for folks that we pay to run those. So appreciate you letting me know.
It's mainly the one main location that would be here in town, the other two wouldn't have to have.
Really? So you don't have to be uniform. All right, well, that'd be good.
We don't have to main location.
Very good. Well, that'll be good to know. Appreciate you letting me know. We'll get it on agenda for further discussion. Miss April, how are things in indigent health and inmate health and all things April today? Okay, good deal. You seeing a slight uptick in pauper burial?
But it didn't slow down for a while.
Hope it stays that way. Good. Good. Save anything from you today? Good deal. Appreciate that. Larry Armstrong, you got anything for us? Thank you for sending Cox over here yesterday. I appreciate that.
We're just doing our paper, picking them up there, starting to pick up the.
Okay, good deal. So tax papers starting to pick up some. Good to know. Ken, anything from ESD one this morning?
Maybe God, I'm not thinking the damage that we caused and everything else, the way it was looking before the rain, I was going to come in and mention the nasty word. We're right now,
Burn down.
we're in the middle of June, ground is good and wet, and that creates another problem, we can't get into the fields. I can get in.
Just wait at the fence.
But if we wait, the wind blow for about 2 days, we'll be in good shape.
That'll do the trick. I got corn in the ground. It'll get dry, I promise. So give you an opportunity to pass. Anything to share with us today?
Trying to building case.
Really? Well, good luck with that. That'd be-
That's okay. 5 years old.
Wow. Okay. 5 years old, trying to fill in the case. Ooh. Well, thanks for letting me know on that one. All right, from this chair real quick, before moving the agenda, a couple of things, construction updates and notes what we've got. Number one, the Covington Street project continues to move along. We had a nice update yesterday afternoon. They should be finished with the inside framing towards the end of this week, beginning of next week. Still waiting on an air conditioner for that phase one. It got pushed back again. It affects Aaron's office up front. They've got temporary units in there. I expressed some displeasure that those weren't exactly good enough. And they're working to get that situation rectified. Obviously, it gets in the 100 degrees. I don't think anybody's intentionally doing anything. It's just a matter of supply chain issues, still kicking us where they can. So as soon as that air conditioning unit comes in, it will be installed. As you can see over there at Covington, the parking lot was poured and striped. And so they've opened up some of that parking. The next steps, you'll see they've fenced off an area in front of the building. They're going to start removing that old awning where it has to come off. Things head up at a good space over there. I'm happy with things are going. We're getting some bids currently, tentatively on removal of that house that we acquired and extending the parking lot. One of the oversights that the architects made in that entire plan is there is no place located on that parking lot to put a dumpster. And I'm pretty certain we're going to have a dumpster. So we may integrate that. Over at AgriLife, there's some outside, we've never done the outside walkthrough check. There's some issues regarding rainwater. One of the biggest problems is we can't get it to dry up enough to finish up the dirt work over there. So as soon as that dries, we should be in good shape. You know, the AgriLife people wanted that rain collection tank. It has been made and certified. It's sitting down at Dripping Springs sometime early next week. It should come up here about the same time that they're going to pour some concrete behind the dumpster enclosure for it, where it's going to sit. So that project tends to move along. We are just soliciting some ideas, nothing formal yet. We need to deal with the roof on this building. My best results, you can see the stain coming down right there. The roof on this building is very unique, and I had a fascinating conversation with a gentleman that put a roof on this building in '86, again in '96, again in '01 after the hail beat it off, and then it's been kind of the same roof since. This is a bunch of handmade tiles that were painted or caulked. We did some caulking on the roof, but this roof has been up here a little over 20 years now. We need to repaint it. If you look around the outside of the courthouse, you'll notice everything above the rock, that trim, it's actually all metal. It's not wood. And that paint is starting to come loose on it. So I'm going to start soliciting ideas for what it's going to cost to paint this thing and reseal the roof. Again, this is the next budget year. I just need this information as we move forward for this coming budget year on how to put it together. The other thing we're looking at, just for possibly next budget year as well, is soliciting at 218 North Waco, that roof down there. We know that roof is kind of at the end of its life. Lucio Valderas, our chief in maintenance, has done an amazing job of trying to keep it dry. But every time it seems he patches over here, there's a drip over here. So we need to start talking about that roof as well. And we're going to collect a few odds and ends on that. The other things that are going on, we should probably get the budget worksheets today, and I've got the letter printed. So we're going to send out the budget worksheet probably tomorrow. That will be on our agenda. So that means, yay, this says nobody ever, it's budget time in Hill County. I'm really excited about this time though, just some new people, some new ways of doing things. I'm happy that we're getting a look at a few things up front. I feel very confident in the conversations I've had with my auditor, with the treasurer, that we are on the right track and this is going to be a good thing for us. I don't have any projections on revenue. I don't expect to have any for a week or two. Just need to start getting the budget expenditures in. One of the things you will see though, that I'm not going to have in time for my July 28th deadline that's self-imposed to put a proposed budget is we may have the Evergreen information, but I don't think we're going to have it back. We should have it back about the first week or so of August. That information will be put in after the budget. So my proposed budget may have a lot of money that is unspent in reserve. There's a reason for that because it's going to take a considerable sum of money, I'm afraid, to do whatever it is Evergreen says we need to do. So I ask all elected officials, when you put your budget request together this year, please remember, we have an overwhelming job. That is that we need to pay our employees a market scale. So we quit losing trained, good quality people from Yale County to other places. So that's just something to keep in mind, and we can talk more about that later. So we beat that to death. Let's go ahead. If there's anybody here this morning for open forum, is there anybody here that's to speak to the court about something that's not on our agenda? If you'd like to, this is your opportunity to address us. If you keep your comments to about 3 to 5 minutes in duration, as we respect you, please show respect to the court. Anybody? Okay. Yeah, if you think about it later, let us know. We're happy to listen to you. So anyway, with no open forum and nobody has signed up to speak online, we're going to move right into our agenda today. First is the consent agenda, and that's going to be actions on minutes, action on invoices, action on payroll, action on the monthly report for revenue and disbursement, and observe and record the elected officials training certificates. If there is any one of these items you'd like to take part singly discuss, I'll be happy to do so. If you found multiple errors in the minutes, you will happy to discuss. I did not do that. I just want to see if you're paying attention. Didn't take a swat at me there. So if there's anything individually we can otherwise take it for discussion. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Motion and a second to approve. Just discussion. Everybody received emails from the treasurer's office with the accounts payable, the invoices, as I say, and the other information you need here. All right, so there's no further commentary. I call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion shall carry unanimously. I'm going to start loading you up with paperwork. As we move along in our agenda today, the first item is going to be discuss and improve employee wage status changes. So for this date, the 13th day of June 2023, we've got our new hires of Miss Cynthia Raines in the auditor's office. That was a surprise, but glad to see her. But she's kind of a one-time consultant. I don't want you to think that Mrs. Raines is coming back. You know, Mrs. Raines operated in the auditor's office for a number of years, a wonderful Hill County employee. She came back to kind of help us out, do a few things. Kyla Sexton in the tax office. Welcome aboard, Ms. Sexton. Kelsey Smith is a new hire dispatcher in the sheriff's office, as is Edwin Petey, who's a new hire jailer. We have Rachel Grigsby, who's a new hire dispatcher. So welcome aboard to those folks. Then our list of people that have moved on to greener pastures, Kevin McCarthy, you guys may know him as Bull. He was our longtime bailiff over here. He's retired and we wish him a very happy and gainful retirement. Layden Hanson from the sheriff's office is moving on. Jared Charpenter from the sheriff's office is also moving on. We have Teresa Miles from the sheriff's office she's moved along as well. Robert Wilkinson, another longtime Hill County employee, has sent his retirement to us. His last day of work was last Friday. Robert was with the juvenile probation officer for many, many years and did a great job. And we wish him all the best in his retirement as well. So wage status changes proposals today is Kimberly Tatry. If I messed that last name up, I apologize. She's got a successful step raise for completion of her field training and addition as booking officer. Then Valencia Brooks, a successful step raise for completing her field training. And gentlemen, that is the employee wage status changes for this date. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. No bonds. And number 2, we'll have no action on today. We didn't have any bonds. Number 3, discuss and to approve on requesting proposals for group medical, dental, vision, and basic life and AD&D insurance. And ANCO has been our provider for this for some time. They have been wonderful to work with. And so I have Mr. Scott Esper with today. Scott, great to see you, friend. Tell us what we got going on.
So it's kind of the normal process of going out for bid. We provide for you like a year, we want to make sure that we're giving you the best options that are available on the table. So that's part of the process. We do look like we're running good this year. We're running at a 72% loss ratio, which is great for the county.
Yes.
So everything's looking good and just want to be here in case you guys have any questions.
It's that time of year going into budget time where we're kind of ahead of the curve this year, unlike 2 years ago when we were so far behind, we didn't know if we'd ever catch up. Like Scott says, we've done a pretty good job of managing our way out of some pretty high loss ratios. And that 73% of premiums paid makes us look much better than that 127% premiums paid that we had a year or two ago, a couple years back. This in conjunction with the online, the one you call in, Help MD, has cut down on a lot of our emergency room claims. You got a snotty-nosed kid when you get home at 5:30, you got to do something about it. So I appreciate the tools you guys have given us, and I look forward to seeing what good we can do this round. All right. Which case I have a motion to approve to go out for a bid on medical services for October 1st, 2023 to September 30th, 2020.
Second.
Motion, second. Got it. Second. All right. Any further discussion? If not, you'll see that the RFP is in our packet and it will be a part of this. So if anybody wants to look at that, we will get this online later today, get you a copy of the signed one. So, all right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Ayes have it and noes know it. So we now have on number 4, I discuss and approve the quarterly investment report for December 2022. Our quarterly investment report shows that our cash management earnings of $8,167, certificates of deposit interest earnings of $77,416.50, and total Hill County investment funds balance is $19,775,566.47. That is as of December 31, 2022. You'll go through and I won't list it to you, but you'll see on the page, second page of that document, our CDs, our investments, and what their maturity dates are, the amounts, and the money market investment fund that we also operate at the sub-depository, just trying to make the most of the taxpayer's dollar, make it work while it's sitting there at the bank. So.
Motion, please.
Okay. Motion and second to approve the Hill County Quarterly Investment Report. Is there any further discussion? If not, what? Okay, whatever. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Number 5, discuss and to approve TCDRS rate for 2024. So TCDRS is the Texas County District Retirement System. That is the county retirement system that we participate in here. We've always had a very robust retirement system amongst the counties. Our plan has been static. I'm not suggesting any changes to it, but couple of questions. Mrs. Rachel Parker was going to be with us this morning, but she's had a little medical issue. She's under the weather today, but she's going to be okay, I think. So what we're looking at this point is our funded ratio. We're still over 90% funded. I mean, for a public retirement system, that is really good. The average is somewhere in the low 80s and we're sitting over 90% funded. So I feel that we've done a good job. The gentleman done a good job in managing this. The required rate this year is 10.12%. And forgive me, I don't have that. Last year was 10.0 something percent. So it's a minuscule increase. It's not very big. But this pays for the COLA we did last year, but I don't know if it's doing a COLA this year. Crystal, you got any idea? Okay. No, that's okay. No need to apologize. I didn't ask the question of Rachel either, but we have time to deal with this, but now we do need to make a decision before July 1st. So if we want to act on it today and accept it as proposed, I'm good with that. If we want to wait till the next commissioner's court and do it and try to get some further explanation, we can do that as well. Up to you, gentlemen.
Judge Lewis.
Yeah, hey, you're there, Miss Rachel.
I'm here. I'm just not feeling real well. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
that's okay. There is no COLA increase this year.
Okay, good. And so this, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so this rate is just that minuscule increase over last year's rate, correct?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, and so we did the COLA for the first time in, I don't know, 11, 12 years last year. And that
Correct.
did make the rate go up slightly. So, but this year we're not going to do that. It would be a pretty sizable increase is my understanding.
That is correct.
Okay, so, this,
I'm gonna do that. I'll make a motion to accept that one.
I think so too. So, all right, we have a motion and a second to accept the proposed plan assessment for plan year 2024. Rachel, anything else you want to add on this before we vote?
No, I think Crystal has last year's, if she has my documents with her. It was a very slight increase just to continue covering that COLA from last year for the retirees. And I think this is the best that we're gonna see out of this TCDRS for the next plan year.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
You're most welcome.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion shall carry. All right, so I'll pass that around. I'll have to sign the bottom of that when it comes back around a little bit. Number 6, discuss and approve unemployment rate for 2024. Telling you, we're ahead of the curve this year on this budget business. These are things that we put into our preliminary budget to help us understand what our benefits, what our costs are going to be when it comes to payroll. So our unemployment fund rate for 2024 has actually gone down slightly, which I'm very, very happy about it. So the new rate for 2024 is going to be 0.0009. Miss Rachel, anything you want to add to that?
So the unemployment just does a 5-year review. They just kind of estimate it based on 5 years. Then they look at the actual data for unemployment claims. And then at the end of the year, we shore up. If we have a surplus, they give us money back. If we owe, then they send us an invoice. So I think that we're just ahead of the game right now. I think next year we'll take a little bit of a hit just from some claims that I'm seeing. But overall, this is what they've proposed for the 5 years.
Okay. I know normally we don't bring the unemployment rate through the county. It kind of is what it is, but in the name of transparency, we're trying to give you guys a little more information, understanding what we're doing up front. So anyway, this is the unemployment rate that is proposed for this next budget year. Thank you. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Any silly remarks? Anybody that want to say anything? All right, it's going to pass then. All right, number 6, discuss and approve a copier contract for the treasurer's office. Once again, I don't understand how these copiers keep getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, but they do. This is a contract with Ms. Laughlin at, is it Southwest Office Solutions? I always forget that one. Anyway,
No.
it's not. Forgive me. Okay, thank you. It's a Xerox copier. And what we're looking at is a lease term of 48 months, and you're looking at a lease payment of $144.40 a month. This will also serve as the fax machine. The item number 9, we're not going to take action on today, and I'll tell you right now why. It's because this particular copier comes with the eFax program in it, and so it's already put together for that. So that's the proposal from the treasurer's office. I find myself in favor of it, and I will make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve a copier contract for the Hill County Treasurer's Office this 13th day of June, 2023. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, any abstention? Motion carries. Number 7, cancel or discuss and approve canceling landline fax for the treasurer's office. These are these old POTS lines that we're getting rid of as we come up, going over to voice over IP protocol. It's a better way of doing business. It's a cheaper way of doing business. So it'd be my recommendation that we go ahead and approve canceling this landline fax for the treasurers. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Is that cancel the line? I thought that line was going to be ported over to Xerox documents.
I think they're porting the number over. So I get, maybe I need to reword this so we've got it correct. And correct me if I'm wrong, please. My understanding is we're just getting rid of the POTS line, but we're porting that number over to VoIP. If we're not saying it right, let's correct the language so we get it right.
Well, that is correct, but porting it over effectively canceled the line here in this building, so.
Okay, so I'll amend my motion so that we cause the treasurer's current fax number to be ported over, which by effect will cancel the landline. Okay, good. Second. Ask me to come up with that wording again. I can't. Thank you though, Phil. Appreciate it. Yeah.
I'll be asking.
Yeah, I hope that recording's good. For both of our sakes. All right, that's a motion in a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. So that number 8 is out of the way. As we said, that Mrs. Parker texted me this morning early. I mean, she's feeling bad, but she was texting me by, 7 o'clock. So we're going to have no action on canceling or adding the EFAX line that's included in the copier contract. Number 10, discuss and approve ratifying accounts payable to Big Daddy's Record Storage. Let's talk about that. What that was, is we had a unique situation where we had the tax attorneys, delinquent tax attorneys, seize some property. And then they got paid the delinquent taxes. But when they got seized, one of the constables had a writ of execution to seize that property for another judgment. And so that happened. And then I think it finally got seized by a third person after they paid that off. Anyway, Big Daddy's Records who had that stuff, was holding it. And so part of the judgment was the cost of paying them, and they had to be rectified on that day. So this is not directly out of the Hill County budget. This is money passed through. It came in from the judgment. We had to pay it then, and we're asking for ratification of the Commissioner's Court to that action. Okay. Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on that? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. And you can see all the paperwork that's behind that as well, if you're interested in reading it. Number 11 is discuss and approve cancellation of a copier contract with D. Lang Landon for the Treasurer's Office. You guys prepared to talk about that one? I don't have a copy of that contract in there, but when is the expiration date on it? Or are we already month to month on it?
We're already month to month, Judge Lewis.
Okay, I guess the reason my line of questioning is going here, I'll jump straight to it. I know that the last time we went to get a copier, there was a little delay, if you'll say, getting the machine. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't do something to cause your office to be without said copier for any amount of time.
No, I appreciate that. We're month to month for up to the next 90 days. So as long as I
Okay.
can secure the Xerox within that time frame, we should be okay.
Okay, and for the cancellation of this, is there any penalty for us canceling that month-to-month contract?
There is not. We fulfilled the full 48 months.
Wonderful. Okay, good deal. That's what I needed to know. Thank you, ma'am. All right, commissioners, you heard it. Any commentary on canceling the contract with D. Lang?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Yes, sir. Uh-oh.
Xerox probably is gonna take care of shipping the old one wherever it's.
Mhm.
Not in the contract, but it's probably.
That's what they did for us last year. Okay. Rachel, do you know if, who's going to take care of shipping this old copier off? The Xerox people say they're going to take care of it?
Xerox said she would take care of it. Yes.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. Great question. All right, thank you for that. So in which case, good discussion. I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Number 12, discuss under action to authorize Judge Justin Lewis to sign an agreement to lease purchase 6 2022 Chevrolet PPV Tahoes from the previous fiscal year through American National Leasing Company for Hill County Sheriff Office. So we had previously gone in and said, hey, we're going to get some vehicles, and these are contracts 3110C, 3111C, 3310, 3311, 3312C, 3313C, 3314C, and 3315C. So we budgeted for this, I believe, in the last fiscal year. We got any money left? Okay. Well, the first thing we got to make sure they've got money left. What do you got, Scott?
These are all actually in service currently. These are all what we're screwing on. We're still waiting on one more to be delivered.
Wow.
We had to go to the Chevy house because after they did the upfit on it, it kept calling one. So we were.
If they call an encore, we've had the same problem.
Yeah, so.
Quit using those electric vehicles, Scott.
But it had to do with the ship and it just got our ship back and it's now back in our.
Okay. Fair enough, I got it. Okay, good deal. Well, this is the follow through on those contracts then, so as you can see, I've got a lot of places to sign. Well, we have seen, the way this works has always been just a little different to me. These folks are basically sitting on the vehicles on a handshake agreement. And we're not signing the final documents until we take possession of these things. I've never completely understood their business model. Apparently, they don't get stuck too often with this deal. But yes, we looked at this last budget year. And so that you're talking July, August time period of last year, and we allocated to get these vehicles taken care of then.
So we've taken possession of some of them already, right?
We took possession of 6 of them. We had to send the one back because of the chip problem, I'm going to call it. I don't know what else to say. So we have 5 in our possession, and the 6th one should be coming back to our possession.
We have 6. Waiting on the 7th.
There's only 6 vehicles on this.
We're in possession of 6. We don't pay for it till we get it.
Oh, so the 7th will come back from the 7th.
Yeah, when we get the 7th, we now come back and do this all over.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay. See what I mean?
There's no,
Yeah. Have you ever bought a car where they said, hey, take that thing, sign a check later?
no.
Me either. That's always, they used to drive Susan to tears. Yeah.
Negotiate.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I don't like this car that much. Now the price is going to come down. some.
Yeah.
So are you going to sue the government? That's great.
They still have to give us a special number later.
Special number.
Well, it seems like every time we do this and then
We
a month or so later, they have assigned some number to it that was not in the contract.
Well, we think we've got that issue worked out after last year because they get tired of that. You know, you got to play this deal of, all right, what vehicle is this? Well, it's described as such in this contract, described as such here. And then if we go to trade it in later, because of the way the statute's written, we have to affirmatively identify what vehicle it was. So we've gone down to, instead of one big contract, you're actually 6 separate contracts here.
Oh,
And it's hopefully going to make this easier for our people in the financial departments to track this over time. Because, you know, the old idea of this is we're not going to run these vehicles into dirt. We run them for several years to a certain pre-designated spot. We get a credit for trade-in value on them and we go, and they keep kind of rolling forward like that. It saves us the hassle of trying to sell a used police car on open market. Doesn't bring near as much money as you'd like it to.
So Scott has a good selection of stuff back there anyway.
Yeah, he built a collection again, Sheriff. Anything-
We'd love to get rid of that.
Yeah, it kind of looks like Breaking Bad over there places.
It's growing again.
Yeah, it'll happen.
I need a couple of pickups, just use them. Give them back.
Have you seen what's over there?
I want to go look.
You'll have to up your maintenance.
I'll tell you what, do you think you can pull one of those road groomers behind a Winnebago? Because that would hook you up with that. All right. All right. So we have a motion to approve. We have a motion second to approve 6 vehicle lease purchase agreements, namely lease agreement 3310C, 3311C, 3312C, 3313C, 3314C, and 3315C between Hill County, Texas, and American National Leasing Company for the lease purchase agreements for 6 Chevrolet Tahoes. Anything further? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, any abstentions, motion carries. Number 13 is urban record Hill County CPS Treasurer's report for this date. Did we get that this time? I must have shuffled it again. I can't make anything not sticky. I was like, I saw that earlier this week. All right, so what we have is the Hill County CPS Treasurer's report for May of 2023. Really not a lot of activity this month. You'll see they had public donations of $854.45. They had some registration fees and business expenses in the total of $76.85. Their clothing allowance, they did spend out $600 for the spring 2023 clothing allowance for the children that they're taking care of at the moment. Again, emergency bedding of $93.34, and the Rainbow Room, which is our repository for things that we need in the middle of the night when children are removed from home, an amount of $59.46. It doesn't seem like a lot, but I'm willing to bet that these individuals are also paying for things out of their pockets and it's not letting me know that. So I appreciate everything that the Hill County CPS Treasurer, Hill County CPS for Child Welfare Board does for these kids. Anyway, so our total net ordinary income for the month was $1,224.80. And that is the Hill County CPS Sheriff's Report from May 2023. We have a motion and I think maybe a second to observe and record. All right, so motion from Commissioner Hawkins, second from Commissioner Crumpton. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Number 14, the nice people from Prairie Land Groundwater Conservation District have been patient waiting on us. Guys, we're in the middle of redoing our subdivision rules and regulations. You know, we look at these on a regular basis, what's working in Hill County, what's not, what can we do better, always within the constraints of what the law allows. Basically 232 of the local government codes where you find a lot of this information, some other things are out in other places. One of the things that we're seeing is a limiting factor on growth in Hill County for many years, 10,000 years maybe, I don't know, has been water. It's always been an issue. I've heard people, why didn't Hill County grow? It's got this or this family or these politics. None of that's true. It's water. Water's the reason our county didn't grow. You know, Plains Indians 10,000 years ago didn't put a permanent settlement off Brazos River. The first folks that moved here came up on the Nolan River, or they came up on Jack's Branch, which was a running tributary of the Aquila system. Or they wound up here in 1853 because you can find groundwater in about 15 feet. The rest of this county is simply here because of railroads. Those towns were laid out by railroads at some point. That being said, as technology improves over the years, we've always been able to find a little more water. We're kind of at the end of that. At some point, there's not going to be a whole lot more water. So you guys will recall, maybe you don't, but back many, many years ago, 2009, 2010, 2011, we were designated a priority groundwater management area. And this body, along with the commissioners courts of Johnson County, Ellis County, and Somerville County, created the Prairie Lands Groundwater Conservation District in order to manage groundwater resources. So let's back forward today. What does that mean? What we're seeing is a lot of our local water supply corporations, and there's 17, 18 of them in Hill County at last count that I know of, and some public water supplies too, either don't have the infrastructure necessary to handle the upcoming development, or they don't have the necessary water available because limitations of what we can pull out of Lake Aquila. So I have developers that are coming in here and wanting to say, we're just going to sink a well. Well, I know very well there are parts of Hill County you couldn't get well water at any depth. There's just places you can't. And there's places you can't get decent well water. And we need a hand in managing this. So we reached out to Prairie Land Groundwater Conservation. Executive Director Kathy Turner Jones is with us today to explain some of the help they can give us. And I'm going to turn the floor over to you and let you let us know what's going on.
Thank you. And I left several copies with the judge the other day, but I have extra for those that may not have a copy.
Thank you.
But, and I think you have everything.
Yes,
But,
too important to lose.
okay, so one of the things you're going to judge talk about is what y'all's authority is under section 232 of the Texas Local Government Code, which allows y'all to adopt subdivision rules and put requirements on development. And one of those is requiring a groundwater availability certification. So that seems to be one of the new catchphrases we're hearing all over the state of Texas. There's all this population is moving here from the urban areas and outside of Texas as well. We recognize no one's bringing water with them. And so how are we doing this planning? One thing I'd like to add to what the judge said as far as sinking these wells out there, what's even scarier to me is seeing a big well sunk in there because they did get water, but the impact over time on that large well because of the shallowness of that saturated thickness and what that's going to do to area wells around it. And therefore, fast forward, you've got the groundwater district, and part of our role is to manage and minimize the impact on area wells and protect, we recognize private property rights. You have a right to produce your water, but you don't have a right to cause harm to your neighbor. And so looking at now developers coming in and wanting to do these developments, a lot of times they're here today, gone tomorrow. They just want to sell the tracts. Let's drop a bunch of domestic wells in here, space them too close, so forth, and in time, we're starting to get phone calls. The county judge is going to get them. You as commissioners should get them. I bought Paradise out here. Now my well won't stay on, or I've got high iron content and the wife is very upset. We have pink sheets now and we wanted white. So, these things are happening. And, when you look at the lifetime of a loan on a home, 30 years, it would be your expectation, you would have water for 30 years. So Texas legislator looked at this and said, we need to give the tools to the counties and to the cities that have planning authority to adopt subdivision rules that now require groundwater availability certification. Something that went through session this year, and it's sitting on the governor's desk waiting for signature right now, is Senate Bill 2440, which is now going to require counties to adopt that subdivision rule that requires a groundwater availability certification. Before it was permissive, now it's going to be a requirement. And I did check yesterday to see if there's any holdup on it, because it's still sitting on the governor's desk. There's no indication it'll be vetoed, but whether he signs it or not, if he does it, it goes into law on Sunday regardless. So we're praying it doesn't get vetoed. I mean, I think it's a very important legislation. A lot of counties are supportive of this, especially around the Austin area, where they're seeing such a plethora of development going on. And those resources aren't there. And the goal is not to stop development. Depending on where you are, people want to see development. That is the tax base coming in, but there's also those consequences. Do we have the roads? Do we have the schools? And now people are seeing water is very important. They're seeing the infrastructure is not there for that water. And it takes time to get that infrastructure in, and somebody's got to pay for it. So, better planning. So what we have done as Prairie Lands Groundwater District, I have worked with my board, and we put together interlocal agreements to work with these counties and offer our services as a groundwater district who we employ we consult with a hydrogeologist to review these groundwater availability certifications once if y'all do choose to move forward, or how y'all choose to move forward. Because as we talked with the judge, you have an engineer, but is he, licensed specialty water resources? Probably not. It's probably roads, maintenance, and other things of that type. And so the cost of the county would be pretty significant to have another peer review of any certification you receive. The good thing about it, statute sets out what has to be in those certifications. Now, I have seen certifications that people have taken the liberties to do more of a desktop one that kind of just barely passes. But what we do is we look at it and we'll say, we support the findings in here, or no, we don't. We would recommend, first of all, certain conditions where maybe it's 3 acres or 4 acres that they do not have the ability to further subdivide it, that only one well, those type of things in those developments. But our goal is, because we do have that hydrogeologist, if y'all are in agreement with the interlocal agreement, once y'all receive that plating request for that and require that, they would submit that certification to us for review. It would keep open the process on your administrative time frame to turn those plats over. It doesn't cause that clock to tick. It doesn't start ticking until we basically say, yes, we're in agreement with it, or no, here are our points, on it. And we provide a 5-day tournament. So it's kind of intended to help. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Does the legislation give Prairie Lands the authority to set spacing requirements?
We have that.
You already have that.
Right. That's in chapter 36 of the water code. And so depending on what type of well it is, if it's a domestic well producing 17.36 or less, then the minimum requirements are 50 foot from a property line and 100 foot from the nearest well.
And we have a minimal acreage requirement for said well as well. As
Two acres. So once we start getting over that, then we have another mechanism in our rules that look at spacing based on drawdowns from property lines and nearest well, and so forth. And that they have to run a spacing test. And we're still talking kind of domestic here. We do see some domestic wells going in greater than 17.36. Well, they have other intentions that they want to disclose to us, but because there is a house and all the things that would make it a house, we more or less go with it. But we can restrict it further by spacing and stuff of that nature. And we will go spot check them and that'll be it. If it's commercial and industrial, they will have to get a permit with the district. And then they're limited to production based on acreage owned or water rights availability right there. So if they have 10 acres, our production limit is 50,000 per acre owned or water right available that they've either leased. We're seeing everything nowadays because water is become that hot commodity. So they would be eligible for 500,000 gallons a year, which is not a whole lot. So our phone is ringing a lot. We're hearing a lot from the solar folks wanting some water and all of this. And yeah, if you have that water right, you're eligible for a permit, but it's not what they're needing and stuff. So,
So on the 2 acre tracts, 2 acre spacing, the permit required.
for a domestic well, no, it's just you, but you have to register the well regardless. And so they would contact the office, and usually this happens to the driller. They contact the office. We ask the questions to determine, what it is. And then they fill out a well restoration. We approve it. They're good to
But
go.
if our hydrologist says, no, there's not enough water there, we have the ability to shut down that subdivision.
Oh, yes, sir. That's exactly right. So our development team, the parties that reviews this, and this started here and it's gotten much larger. We try to bring in every relevant party. We started off just in the county, then we brought in TxDOT, we have our outside engineers. Now we're trying to bring in prairie lands, groundwater conservation, knowing that we're small, limited resources. We can't afford to go do these things on our own. So we work with others to accomplish things. But our development team will, straight up turn down one that does not meet our rules. Hopefully later this month, and I don't want to trip myself up by saying that, but we have been working diligently on updating our rules. One of the things that's been a bit of a holdup to see what the governor is going to do, whether he makes this permissive under 2440 or not. I think that this court needs to adopt that rule, and I hope.
I mean, it's already permissive.
Well, I'm sorry, it's mandatory. I misspoke. Thank you so much. Whether he makes it mandatory or not, I think that we need to still take that and put it in here. We're seeing a lot more people coming in and saying, yes, we're going to put groundwater, we're going to put wells in. Just having a lot of experience with this, both in South Texas and here over the years, there is not as much groundwater as these people are advertising. And I think that we do get in occasionally to an unscrupulous developer. So I feel it's our job, our duty, the taxpayer, to make sure that we regulate to the degree that we can without being overbearing, that what they're advertising is a real thing. So if they're saying, hey, we can get water here, great, prove it to the county. And we have a law that says that you can make you prove it. Too many, your neck of the woods, too many subdivisions that weren't well regulated, and now they cost you tons and tons of taxpayer dollars.
And the developer, everything's going to develop 180 lots. And he's supposedly with TIA, and we're only granting him 80. So it kind of pretty well.
80 lots, because he was 180 platted smaller than 2 acres, because we don't turn down the lots. We just basically said, here's what water is available.
Correct.
So he's got to do some re-engineering to make it a lot bigger.
Right.
The other thing you have,
Or find public water.
that's it. And
That's it.
our limitations with public water are only going to get worse. You've got a couple of water supply corporations that are well prepared for this, and it's just the nature of events. I'm not poking fingers at anybody, but there's others that are already under limitations that they can't add additional meters due to infrastructure, or maybe if not on the whole system, can't add additional meters in different places.
COVID brought that population faster than it was projected. And unfortunately, we're not just seeing it in Hill County. All 4 of my counties are seeing this. Johnson County SUD, which is one of the biggest SUDs, they cannot provide water in all the areas that's within their CCN and stuff. And so the cost of someone trying to get that infrastructure there is so prohibitive. They're wanting to do single family residence wells. And so, to me, it even cries more the need for these groundwater certifications. And all 3 other counties have already signed this. We've been working with them for the past year. Unfortunately, we didn't get here sooner, but I think the timing worked out even better at this point, especially with legislation. And at times I thought that bill was up, some I thought it was down. you know, visiting with the judge, one of the things I thought was interesting, if you go on and look at the witness list who testified stuff, you won't see TAC, which is Texas Association of Counties, really commenting. I thought that was kind of strange because very few of the counties have even heard of the bill. And what we kind of found out later is we think maybe it's kind of like a TML, Texas Municipal League. If they don't have consensus fully within the association, they just kind of stay silent. They don't take sides. And so that's my thought on it. It's not that it was tried to be snuck in, but, you know, a lot of counties with a large pro-developer minded, they probably push back a little bit on that, you know, but definitely these rural areas. But Austin, Travis County, they're big proponents. Williams County, I mean, they do not have water there, and it is a dire situation. All the population is coming in.
It's not that we're not pro-development, we're just being smart about it.
Well, and when I say
Agreed.
that,
Yeah.
it's not pro-developer influenced, you know,
What we have.
a lot of commissioners are in areas, they rely on a lot of fundraisers and, you know, those contributors and stuff. So
I will say this, that many years ago, I guess I'm the last guy on this body that was here beside you when we set this up. We had concerns because remember, the priority groundwater management didn't come from us. That came from the state that said, tag, you're it, TCQ. And then there was some political infighting at the state level of how this is actually going to work out. And we found our friends to the north and we kind of created what we needed to create. Because we wanted, at that time, even though the populations were larger, you remember Southern Ellis and Southern Johnson were very rural places, large rural places. And we had a lot of like mentalities. All right, hey, we've got rural areas, agriculture is important. We have a lot of domestic wells. How do we protect that? I don't want to be in the business of going into Farmer Bob's backyard and checking how many gallons of water he used on the household well to, you know, water the chickens too. So that configuration of people that we put on there originally are folks with agricultural backgrounds, folks with water backgrounds. And I think that everybody did a very good job of putting together what was then one of the 10 largest regulatory agencies by geographic area in the state of Texas, but understanding it's still a laissez-faire type of government. We have to protect this asset, but we have to be cognizant of the rights that you have to roll capture plus your private property rights. And I think overall, there's been some, you know, learning curves, no doubt, but it's been fairly smooth. I look at what happened to our neighboring counties when some of these things went down, and I think, oh, for the grace of God, there go I. There were some fights in some of those places, but we were lucky that we had 4 like-minded communities that put together a organization. And it was, oh, by the way, it was either we do it or the state does it for us, and we didn't really like that option. So.
right. I feel very fortunate. I've got 4 counties that have courts very supportive of understanding the value in this planning. They don't want those phone calls. They don't want their citizens to have unreliable water. They want safe, secure sources. And whether it's coming from some type of surface water or the groundwater. And you know, keep in mind, it takes both types of water. And we're going to be looking at other sources of water in the future, develop whether it's some type of aquifer storage and recovery projects or even an ASR. Things are getting cheaper on that, just like the Xerox copier. Who would ever thought they would have been less than $10,000? I mean, remember the day that it was like a car. And so we're seeing those go down, but, you know, conservation is going to play a large part. I was very encouraged to hear that Extension has put rainwater harvesting on their building. We plan to go take pictures now and highlight that. Part of my goal next year is to add some grant money within our budget to help incentivize more projects of that type. And there might be an opportunity for a little reimbursement on that. I'd hoped to have done it this year, but we had some budget changes and we had to take some money out of what we had on some of that rainwater outreach this year. But going back to this, there is a cost involved, but it's not to Hill County or at all. The developer, once they submit this certification back to the groundwater district, they pay $1,000 application fee. That helps pay my hydrogeologist. And right now we're I'm having him build that under a separate task so we can see what is that costing us, you know, and if that gets higher than what we're expecting, we may have to change that, but it'll be the developer cost. It will not be borne on the county.
how would we implement that is if we modify the subdivision rules and regulations, we'd add in these additional requirements under 232.003 and say that you must bring a certification by either a licensed hydrologist or geoscientist, I think is how the statute reads. In order to do that statement, then we are going to charge you $1,000 fee to review your engineer's work. I think that we can all agree that the days of thinking that professionals don't make mistakes are over after this architectural thing we've had to do with. So having to check somebody else's work is just part of the deal. And remember, this doesn't apply to every single subdivision that comes along. If mom's trying to cut off 2 acres to sell, as long as they've got water from somebody else, it's not an issue. These are the people that are coming along saying, hey, we've got to put a groundwater, we're gonna put a straw in the ground to get water. You know what? I want to make sure that there's actually water there.
And we even provided some thresholds of, what we would recommend. You mentioned, not intended to be mom that's carving off property for the kids, so forth. It's more or less, lots of a certain size, numbers of certain number of lots, so forth. And we had our hydrologists look at, Hill County, specifically the hydrology here, and what would be a good recommendation as a threshold once y'all do look at putting that in that subdivision rule.
And did you come up with a threshold?
Yes, I believe.
Is $1,000 per lot or is that?
Certification, the whole document. So they will do a hydrology study,
So
One lot or
Yeah.
for the whole project?
yeah, if you look
the
at the
development.
GA3C threshold numbers, they're looking back here. Well, go ahead. Yeah, I'll let you explain those numbers.
So on this, what we're saying here, a recommendation, y'all can adopt something less restrictive or more restrictive. So this is what our hydrogeologist thought would be a minimum guideline for y'all to use. So anything greater than 6 lots of any size, keep it in mind, 2 acres is a minimum. We recommend a groundwater availability certification regardless. If it's between 3 to 6 lot and greater than 4.5 acres, which is like double our minimum requirement, we don't recommend that. If it's 1 to 2 lots of any size, it's not recommended. But, we also want, and y'all know your people, your developers, is somebody out there chunking it up in phases. We think the legislation that was passed out of the Senate and the House, we think it covers that loophole to keep, it speaks in here of further subdividing our developments with phases or something of that nature. It's to control that, because we're seeing that, everybody works to find a way around, it's all about the dollar in the end. So, I think between the two, I think you're able to put together good subdivision rules if that's what y'all want to do. Other thing I visited with the judge about is, planning authorities and how we can still help on that. I have with me today Kaylin Garcia. She's the one in my office. A lot of the planning entities send her a draft. What are they calling it? Draft? Preliminary. Yeah, preliminary plat to review, because they don't have some of the strict requirements on it. We will look at it and say, unless there's public water system available, only 4 of those lots would be eligible for wells. We will even look at the property around it and say, based on, what we see as green space or whatever, we're concerned that further development in this manner would, cause further, concerns to the groundwater levels, and would recommend, the planning authority consider adoption of a certification or requirement of a groundwater certification. So we kind of do a desktop review to help your planning entities. Again, this is something we do for the counties and the planning authorities that are cities. Father County has more planning authorities than Carter has Liverpools. It's just strange. Y'all pretty well do it all for the county, right?
Unfortunately.
Well, it's good because it's.
Yeah, Jesse dies, I'm out. Jesse quits. I'm
Do
done.
y'all have depths of wells in different parts of the county? I know up on the mountain, some of those people up there building or digging wells 250 feet. And everything I've always found 800 to 1,000 feet
Right.
where they need to. So
You know, just like developers, there's unscrupulous drillers, not as many in this area. Pretty well, most we deal with are pretty honest, but I have seen come in, you know, and someone that's not familiar with the area and asking the right questions, they don't know that, you know, long-term that well is going to be viable for very long when it's, you know, the shallower it is. Those are the ones most affected by the droughts. And we saw it happen in Johnson County pretty bad last year around Godly. A lot of the shallower wells, you know. Mhm. But, you know, they rebound the fastest, you know, it's only upside, but it takes the rain to do that. We had a guy call in, and whether he was serious or not, he seemed pretty serious because he wasn't happy. He said he had to swim in the bathe in the swimming pool twice because there wasn't enough water. Right. Of course, it was the neighborhood. Everybody had a pool. He happened to be at the highest point in that development, and everybody had some St. Augustine grass, and that POA was anti about encouraging conservation. You know, they moved out of Fort Worth to avoid, you know, get away from restrictions, but there was no love for the neighbor now, you know.
We see a lot of that too. People come here, we want the same thing we had up there. That's not how things work.
But they moved here because they wanted to get away from there.
Exactly. You
And
want
take it
to
off.
bring those problems with you. We don't want that.
Right. So we offer educational opportunities with TOAs. If they want to bring us in, we'll talk to them about, you know, better ways of irrigating landscape. It's not to say you have to go put in rock and cactus. It's, you know, don't overwater your yard. Yes, you know, most people, 60% of the water they put on their yard is wasted. You know, that type of deal. The time, overwatering it, you know, grass is just like children. You teach them to use less or behave, you know, they'll do it. And you've seen after the hard winters with all the ice, grass comes back, you know. It may look bad for a while, but it'll come back.
So you don't have any restrictions on these people who are putting these 250-foot wells in?
No.
I mean,
Well, besides they have to have the 2 acres,
Mm-hmm.
but we can't, it's not in our authority to say you have to drill XYZ. Now, what we did in Somerville County on a groundwater availability certification, our recommendation back was that was one of the certifications we felt like was very flawed. It was a minimal review. It hit all the check marks to say it passed, but it didn't look at a worst case scenario. It didn't use the drought record. It didn't consider swimming pools because they were estate size lots, further subdividing. So our recommendation came back that, you know, while, you know, they did provide information on this, we feel like, you know, there are concerns about drought record, using that information, you know, should those lots further subdivide, that doubles that impact on that aquifer, you know, unless deed restrictions are included in there to prevent further subdividing. We also recommend alternating to the deeper, because all those wells were going to be in the shallow. And it was put in it because they were selling those lots with the well at that point. And so we came back and said maybe alternating on every other. Well, that just kind of tripled the price tag of a lot and stuff. And but the county went with it. They said either, you know, and the developer had to go with it. Now, some of his lots that he pre-sold that he wasn't supposed to, they ended up getting their money back because when they found the price tag of drilling that bigger well.
Yeah.
Or deeper well.
Those drillers don't guarantee anything.
No.
Spend $26,000 and get dirt.
$1 million.
How much were some of those going?
Some of them are going for 60,000.
That's household wells.
60,000.
I had one guy tell me his was 85,000.
Yeah. I'm just a guess. I come from Montgomery County. They're shallower and bigger water. So when I started hearing these drilling costs, of course, again with COVID, you know, the cost of pipe and everything, that drilling mud is just crazy. Now there's an issue with hauling off the waste. It's just.
So our proposal in front of us today, gentlemen, is an interlocal agreement between Hill County and the Fairland Groundwater Conservation District. It is the form, yes, sir. And so
Now, is that the one she emailed you?
this is not the latest and greatest. This is the one that you included in this package.
Good. So
Yeah,
the latest and greatest, we found a typo in the second paragraph.
Okay,
And so, and it's not substantial. What it is, we left off the word local law code or something. Where it says Article 4, Section 1 of the Texas, the Constitution of Texas. That Constitution of Texas.
yeah.
We had highlighted some stuff as a template to include Hill County, Somerville County, and when we took out highlighting, we accidentally took out some words that we found yesterday, so we put them back.
We'll make a motion.
I got you. So we have a motion and a second. Let's talk about discussion on this real quick. And I'm not going to read this verbatim because we don't have that kind of time or attention spans whatsoever. But we talk about Article 1 authorization, our purpose, and it shows we're in the Texas Government Code, Chapter 791. We have the authority, plus Texas Water Code, Chapter 36 gives us this authority, and the local government code under 232, other applicable law as well. So we go through our authority and purpose, and we go to the duties of the parties, which is under 2.1, Article 2. 2.1 talks about communication. We agree to timely, talk with each other, effectively communicate, which shouldn't be an issue. 2.2 is probably where you guys are going to find most of the meat of this, and that's the plating authority's duties. And it talks about the plating authority. That's us, Hill County. We're exercising our authority under section 232.0032. That's what we talked about. It's been permissive. If the governor signs it or doesn't sign, as long as he don't veto it by Sunday, it's going to become a mandatory that any applicant seeking a rural tract plat that is going to have groundwater, proposing to use a groundwater source other than a water supply or somebody with a certificate of convenience and necessity or public water supply system is going to have to go through this groundwater certification. And it talks, so B goes on to plating authority shall require, again, Hill County is a plating authority, a plat applicant to submit a flat fee payment of $1,000 payable to the district. And this is the GAC, Groundwater Accessibility Review Fee. So, and that is laid out there directly what it's going to be, and we'll modify our rules so that language is in there as well. But our goal is that if you're coming in here, I'm going to propose that we adopt these guidelines when our subdivision rules come up. This is what came from their engineers. They are the knowledgeable parties here, and the reason we brought them here, so that if you're going to ask for a subdivision in Hill County and your proposal is to feed it from a well you're going to drill, well then, if you're greater than 6 or greater lots, you're going to have to get a groundwater accessibility study. If you are 3 to 6 lots and those lots are less than 4.5 acres, you're going to have to get it. Otherwise, we're not going to, mess with you. 1 to 2 lots or, 2 to 3 lots, 2 to 6, 3 to 6 lots that are over 5 acres, we're not going to mess with. So what I'm getting at is we need to start putting in our subdivision rules and regulations, tightening up on the groundwater availability. And the best way to do that is to work with our partners at Prairie Lands. They have the expertise. And it just simply, all we have to do is to entertain and approve an interlocal agreement. And then the second step is to finish modifying our subdivision rules and regulations to include this language inside of it. Okay, Scotty's gonna type all that up, so we got it. All right. I just need to, I need to review the amended one for a second, but
No, that's fine. Just let me know.
that is the amended one, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's right. Cool. Article 4, Section 1, Texas Constitution, operating. No, we just got to fill out the notice selection. No, I already have a new one in here, actually. I printed that one. I thought I had the old one. So we'll fill out the notice section on this. I've got this document in Word. I can get it in Word format.
We'll send it to you in Word.
If you would, please. And then what we'll do, we'll get that filled out, run through council real quick to bless it, and then we'll sign off on it.
And email it to me. We'll sign it electronic and get your copy back.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
Okay.
Appreciate
Well, I appreciate being here. And again, until you adopt those subdivision rules, we're available to review any preliminary plats to offer up suggestions. Because we value having it in those, deed records that comments were made.
On the preliminary plat.
Right.
So if it comes back and, everybody wants a little CYA, it gives some that, buyer beware. That's the biggest problem right now in,
Taking advantage.
oh, totally.
Caveat emptor, buyer beware. There's people selling slews out here. selling
The other
trees.
thing we're doing is when homeowners are drilling these wells, we're filing deed notices on that property that says a well is there. We tried to get legislation that was required as part of title review, and we're still working on that with the Realtors Association. But should they sell that property, 2 acres has to retain with that well, or 2 acres of water rights has to retain. And we've seen this in Hill County already where they've taken, say, what was it, Kaylin? How many acres was it?
So what they would do is they would subdivide, let's say, two acre lots.
But they built the well first.
Both of those, and then further subdivide those into 1 acre lots.
What's one thing that we're going, I made a note to myself, and it's on top along with this, but you bring up a good point. And that is, we need to make sure that when we put this language into our subdivision rules, that it's clarified that once we approve a subdivision plat, preliminary plat, whatever plat, that no further subdivision. That's going to have to be a required statement, just like your floodplain statement, your meets and bounds, your state.
Or they need to acknowledge it up front. It's in phases or something of that type. But on the instance that she's talking about, we told them you're either going to have to replat that back where there is 2 acres with that well, or you're going to have to lease back the water rights from whoever owns the new property around it, because third option is you're going to have to cap the well.
So does the hydrogeologist dictate the location of the well based on the aquifer and the study?
No, so what we'll do, when we do have a say in it is when it's over 17.36 and now it has to pass a spacing test that's a little more tedious. We look at, the depletion or the drawdown from existing wells and property lines. Given that, then it becomes a placing, you can't be, here's X where you might have wanted it. You're going to have to move over to move that.
Where it is on the structure and
The stratigraphy and so forth. And Kaylin can speak to a lot of that. She plays with that spacing tool more. I don't. I have people that do that. But I read the report and it's either a pass or a failure. But depending on what aquifer is, she could pretty well tell you what that cone of influence is, whether it's significant or not, and we try to help on that. Your drillers, they may be drillers, but they are very smart individuals. This is their bread and butter. And if they're local here, they want to continue working. It's those that come in. Who is the driller to be aware of that we had to bust? Zavala Drilling. If you see that rig, call me.
I tell you what, over the years,
They're what we call bandit driller.
good to know. Over the years, many times I've called Mr. McPherson and he'll sit down that old country twang and walk me through what needs to happen. So
You can tell him what the dirt looks like and he can tell you what aquifer.
you remember in 1955, my daddy and I drilled a well. That was a conversation I had with him, and he knew exactly where that well was and what no, you can't do that there. You got to do this. That was fascinating to me, the knowledge.
And I find that pretty well true with drillers. They remember that because they live on that rig watching that day in, day out while they're drilling. But Zavala Drilling calls.
Appreciate that. All right, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, anything further discussion on this action item? If not, I'm gonna call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Appreciate you. You too. All right, number 15, county clerk's trying to get us to keep the meeting on longer here. Discussion to approve the county clerk's remote birth access renewal agreement with the Department of State Health Services and Vital Statistics offices. This is interlocal cooperation contract between us and the state that comes up every 5 years, I believe. And basically what this does is Nicole, it allows her office to provide vital statistics documents. Otherwise, if she didn't do this, you have to go somewhere else to get it. So there's nothing really in this that gives me a cause for concern. I believe it's gone through council.
We are in attachment with the contract action. We are certifying that we do not provide funding to any person or entity that provides elected portions. Nicole, were you aware that you cannot require a customer to provide COVID-19 vaccine passport? You cannot.
This is what our tax dollars go to.
Already, we couldn't boycott this, but I was unfair, we couldn't boycott energy.
Well, I hadn't heard that. That is new. That's a new one.
Not discriminating against firearm and ammunition industries.
That's new. Hadn't heard that one either. Am I gonna start putting that in my RFPs? I'm gonna quit writing those things if that's.
Better look at all these codes.
Yeah, apparently I got something else to do. That's great. All right. Well, the Israel one was, it was a statute, then the court struck it down and they came back with another statute and you never know that week if it's in or out. But the COVID passport, I'll let everybody know you can't do that. You've been,
Got to page 3, and that's when I decided to send it to you.
There's something in here about cloud computing state risk and authorization management program. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
You can't subcontract with anybody from China, Iran, North Korea, Russia.
Oh.
like physically present, citizen thereof, or is there clarification on that one?
Legal lawyer.
I'm gonna have to cancel that one out.
They're really worried about that one on this thing. Okay.
This is from the state of.
Oh, that's a funding limitation. I got you. How would that even be germane to what we're talking about? I got you. So anyway, so a lot of things we would never do, never have done, or never going to do are in article or appendix B of this particular contract in the state. I swear those morons in Austin have more time on their hands than anybody else.
Some better to do.
It's amazing to me what they'll come up with. So anyway, that being said, none of that concerns me because we weren't going to do it. We ain't going to do it. Not going to happen. However you want to say it.
What's all the good fact finding, Chris?
Go to Schultz's. So anyway, this is the contract to renew, sorry, interlocal cooperation contract renewal with the State Department of Biostatistics. So, thank you. We have a motion in a second. Is there any further commentary? Because that actually is quite entertaining. Quite stupid, but entertaining. All right, any further commentary? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Okay, number 15 is actually for Mr. Art Mann. He was supposed to be here this morning. He had another medical appointment for now, and he's not made it quite yet. I don't want to hold things up, but let's talk about what we're up to. And this is discussion on the parking lot construction at the corner of Franklin Street and Covington Street. For Jim, you weren't here when we originally started this. The last mayor in the city of Hillsborough shared a concern of ours. And that was Mayor Smith understood what we've known for years. There's just not enough parking downtown. You have a couple of courts operating on the same day down here, much less 2 jury trials and a grand jury. That's a nightmare. So what we've attempted to do is find different ways over the years to make parking. This washateria over in the corner was a pretty bad eyesore, really building itself was literally falling in. And ultimately, we had tried to make a run at buying it about 10 years ago. They weren't interested in selling it to us. So working with the city about 3 years ago, we managed to get an agreement. The city was a front person on it, and we bought it. We in the city bought that thing. Then we entered into an interlocal agreement, which I've not provided you a copy of, but it is in the clerk's office. And that interlocal agreement was, while we owned it, we were really going to be the silent partner. We're going to pay money. They're going to do all the work. We've got our hands full. They've got more resources readily available. Well, just in the spirit of cooperation, when it came to demolition, we took a lead on that. It helped out tremendously. But now it's time to actually, oh, here he is. Speak of the devil and he shall appear. I was just giving him the whole, Art, how are you this morning? We're just starting this process of telling the secret history of the parking lot to Covington Street. So anyway, long and the short, your timing's impeccable. I can't believe you made it in time like that. So anyway, we've worked, and Art recently came in on this, but some things have taken place and we're now in the position to move forward with the construction of that parking lot. And what you've been provided with is a set of plans that Art provided to me. And you want to talk about it? Yeah.
Would you get the bid tab?
Like if it's, I don't think that's in there. I don't think.
There'll be a page.
Yeah, it is, but the second to last page is the bid tabulation sheet. As you can see, concrete has not gotten cheaper in the last couple of years.
So Hillsborough sand and gravel was a low bidder. You can see 165, 751, 166, 208, 219, 221, 229, and 249.
Somebody put quite a bit of profit in on that 249 level.
Yeah. But it's got a drawing. If you have the drawing, it's a layout. The city obtained or retained Syntex engineers. It's dead Sheelock. It used to be with BSP Beach Sheelock and Partner.
Really like, yeah.
He did a lot of work for the city over the years under BSP.
Now, my only question on this one is this, and it's something we talked about early on, and if it's not going to hold, it's not going to hold. But we talked about possibly putting our trash cans off the square because it really kind of impedes that line of sight at the intersection of Franklin Covington. Is there a place on this parking lot to put those two dumpsters?
Take up quite a space.
Okay. I mean, is that, if we
I
did
think
that,
the public would hug your neck if you got them off.
I think a lot of people would. And God rest Mary Topping's soul, but she used to come in here about once a year and really let me have the what for because of those dumpsters.
Yeah.
So, and in her memory, I'm going to try to get them off the square.
31 parking.
Yeah, I think it's 31 or 32.
Yes, sir.
Would it be possible to do it where you wouldn't have to put the trash truck on that concrete? I mean, figure out a way to where it can have access from the street. Or that, both trucks here.
Yeah, they know.
Well, that would be an engineer question. It's not a Justin question. It's just, I mean, we're in that phase right now where we could do something, and that's something we're still open to doing, is putting those trash cans over there, getting them off that corner. But that's the only caveat I have to this whole thing, and we can figure that out as we move forward. The city's done what the interlocal agreement was for their end, which is to bid this out for construction. They've obviously gone through, received multiple bids, and now we've got a bidder. And, you know, really, there's no action for us to take at this time, but I wanted you guys to just get a reminder of the numerous things that we work together with the cities with in this county. And this is just one of the many things we work with the city of Hillsborough. As a general rule, this is going to be a project that's going to be beneficial for everybody in the downtown area of Hillsborough. The lack of parking here is the number one complaint you hear on a regular basis. And if we had the money, we'd build a parking garage, but we don't have parking garage money yet. So if Art wins the lottery, we'll get him to kick in something.
So just, I hadn't thought about this. This is the alley. There could be space right there outside the parking lot, make it low. Whoever said the garbage trucks, they could just come up at an angle in the alley and pick them up.
I like that idea too.
It looks like we own that property right there, that little notch.
Okay, question on this. Are we going to resurface any of that alleyway in that process?
I think it was discussed, but I don't know.
I hadn't heard anything. It's not a part of the project. Of just curiosity question.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll try to,
Okay.
but I can't tell you for sure.
Well, Countryfield having a gravel alley right across from the courthouse.
That's right.
But really, the reason I'm bringing this back to you guys is this is a project that we started some time back. The life has intervened in certain places, things have taken place. I just want to know if anybody's got any questions about it or anything they'd like to talk with. I know you're getting presented with kind of a fiat accompli here. You've got plans in front of you, and this is what we're going to do. But you know, things that we look at are not always just county centric. It's just how do we improve the community as a whole. And on this particular project, we had the opportunity to work with the city of Hillsborough and just try to correct a long-standing problem down here. You know, when I got down here in January '07, I heard it when downtown occupancy rate was something like 37–38%. It was pretty low then, but you'll notice that we've had a great renaissance around this courthouse square. We've got people taking older buildings, fixing them up, bringing in new businesses. And while we were here first, so we're not going anywhere, you know, we do have a duty to help alleviate some of the parking issues that we cause. This has been planned for, budgeted for, so it's not going to have any negative effect.
And budget, is that coming out of city, county, a combination?
Half is them, half is us.
50-50.
50-50.
50-50 split on purchasing the building.
Demolition and the building. So, yeah. So it's been a
50-50 deal from the start.
Yeah.
It started under the previous city manager, Frank Johnson, role 2 years ago.
So anyway, Guys, any questions about this?
I think it's a good deal.
I think so too. I'm really glad that it's continuing to move forward. And I think it's going to be something that's going to benefit everybody that has a business, in the courthouse business downtown area.
We just didn't want y'all to look out and they're turning dirt over there and y'all don't know what they're doing. Thank you. I want to introduce Vance Lipsy.
Vance, how are you
He's
today?
on the workforce, he's community development director. And he's taking over some of the stuff that I took over when I moved over to city admin.
Okay.
And we'll be working in that direction. He's taken over a few committees from Richard in the planning department. So he's just picking up a little bit of Main Street, a little bit of everything. But anyway, he's a Mount Com resident, one of your constituents for the time being anyway.
Mount Call.
Oh, I'm sorry, not. I got it. Yeah.
Those people probably yelling at me.
That's right, fine.
Scotty was gonna flip you.
Yeah.
That's some history.
Yeah.
And There's two commissioners flipped to who got Covington. Years ago.
Kid you not, that happened.
It happened right in this courtroom. I watched it.
Yeah. Imagine how many those people feel.
But anyway, I just wanted y'all to meet Vance. He's kind of taken over this project. Chris Moore was working on it when he left, the Main Street director. Vance came on board with the project. He's been working with Jed.
He's a jack of all trades.
Yes.
Yeah, and while we're speaking about parking lots, there's another parking lot. The city asked us last year when we were selling Franklin Street not to sell the parking lot. And we acquiesced to that. We understand the parking problem. They want to buy the parking lot off this. I've talked to the city manager as of last week. That's still the plan. So I spoke with David last week. We're going to work together, getting the real estate contract on that and getting that off our books back onto the city since we no longer own Franklin Street Annex. And I think the new mayor's offices are right next door. So I think we should get some support on that deal. So it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think things are working out well. Downtown, they've done a great job of trying to find more space for everybody to fit in. As we get more people living down here is what surprises me, the occupancy number of folks that live downtown now.
Yeah.
So
It's really going up.
it really has. Good to see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else, guy?
All right, thank you so very much. I appreciate it. So there's no action on these guys. It's just more of a presentation today, let you know where we're at and where we're headed. The action item will come back and we got to cut the check. So that'll be part of the register run. All right, in which case in number 17 pursuant to Texas Government Code 551072, the Hill County Commissioners Court will convene into executive session for the discussion of deliberations regarding real property. Actually, before we do that, one thing, I made a mistake earlier and I need to correct it. And I said I had no bonds, and that's not true. I have a bond. I found it. I knew there was one in here and I couldn't find the thing. I get to looking in this package and shuffling it, and our organization may not be my strong suit all the time here, but it's from Miss Hannah Kennedy and the Hill County 66 Judicial District Court. And this is CSC Officer 1, and that is her bond. And I would make a motion to approve the bond under motion in a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, any abstentions? Motion shall carry. Now we're going to move into executive session. So we ask you guys to clear out the courtroom.